Welcome to Rising Woman Leaders, a safe space for women to thrive in community where their voices and stories are heard. We're a sisterhood supporting each other to live our dreams and embody the sacred feminine to restore balance on our planet. Join us each week as we return to the unconditional love and guidance of our heart and our womb. I'm your host, Meredith Rom, and I invite you to walk this path of beauty, devotion, and service with us. This podcast was first recorded for the Mindful Pause podcast with Audrey Sutton Mills, so definitely take a moment to check her out. Enrollment is open for the Way of the Priestess, a 13-moon year and a day initiation program. We'll be exploring core values of femininity, devotion, wildness, compassion, boundaries, prosperity, service, love, leadership, and vision. This is your opportunity to live with ritual, honor high holy days of the year, moon wisdom, strengthen your intuition, connect with goddess guides. You'll learn to navigate the world as a highly sensitive person. I'll be teaching energetic clearing techniques to release overwhelm, self-doubt, and anxiety. It'll help you discover your mission. What do you really wish to devote yourself to, align with a higher purpose, and serve humanity and give meaning to this life? Connect on a heart level with other sisters. We usually have 15 to 20 women each cohort. Feel abundantly supported, seen, and heard. Use your voice as a teacher and a guide. Learn to facilitate your own rituals and circles. Be a spiritual support for your community. Align with a feminine spiritual path, accountability to begin and sustain your own meditation and devotional practices. And it's an opportunity to become this vessel of love, the energy of the priestess. Learn the ancient arts of temple priestesses, from self-love to sensuality, feminine magnetism. We'll also be welcoming abundance, elevating our frequency, releasing victimhood, and becoming the sovereign creator of our realities. Each month of the program includes an initiation gateway, priestess practices, facilitation skills, goddess guides, recordings, new and full moon wisdom, and rituals. You'll also receive private healing sessions, guest mentor videos, live sisterhood calls, a closing virtual retreat and vow ceremony, a private WhatsApp group, an accountability sister, and our priestess curriculum. To learn more about the program, you can visit meredithrom.com/priestess, and I'll include the link in the show notes.
Hi, guys. I am so excited to welcome Meredith Rom to the podcast today. She's a spiritual mentor, womb healer, and leader of the Way of the Priestess initiation program. She supports women to heal past wounds and release limiting beliefs to fully embrace their greatest gifts and soul callings. Her mission is to see women shining at their brightest, owning their worth, and using their voice to be a beacon of light for others to awaken in the world. After graduating from NYU, she followed her intuition to Northern California, where she mentors women to rise in courage, self-love, and feminine leadership. I'm so excited to welcome Meredith to the podcast. I found her divinely, really, because I was looking for priestess programs, and I found her podcast, her book, and just all this other wealth of information on her website and Instagram. And I kind of became obsessed with you, Meredith. I've been sharing all of your stuff with friends who are really interested in deepening their connection to their feminine wisdom and their intuition. And I'm so, so excited and honored for this conversation today. And one of the reasons why I reached out to you is you sent out an email, and I'm excited to talk about these core wounds of the priestess, the modern priestess. And I'd love to share that with our community today and how to heal them. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Yeah, it's always so funny that we have no idea who out there is receiving the work and feeling blessed by it. And it's so wonderful to connect face to face like this.
Same, same. So I received this email and I was like kind of blown away with it. And can you explain what the core wounds of the modern priestess are to our audience and our community today?
Yeah. Yeah. So these wounds have kind of been revealing themselves to me over time. I started my work coaching and being a healing spiritual mentor with women probably a little over 11 years ago. So it's been a while that I've been doing these one-on-one healing sessions and supporting people. And I started to see some patterns that were very similar in people that were attracted to my work. And I don't know if it's because these are things that I've worked on healing a lot on my path, but also I feel very much connected to the path of the priestess and feel like I have probably walked this path for many lifetimes and have navigated these wounds over that time. So it's just something that I really want to support women in healing and coming into their greatness. So I can go through them. There are
Yeah, I
seven
would
of
love that.
them that I've identified. The first one I think is really common. This is the wound of persecution. And I think this really dates back, whether it's through our ancestry or through our past lifetimes, of the very real fear that women have had around being stoned, killed, burned. There were witch hunts that happened a long time ago around all of these ideas around being visible. You
Mhm.
know, that feeling like it wasn't safe to share our voices, or this wound can really activate for us anytime that we step out to public speak, maybe even just to record a video, make a post on social media, be seen in the public light, maybe even just being in the classroom and wanting to raise your hand when we were
Yeah.
younger. The fear of visibility. And I think it really dates back to just this vulnerability of, well, if I'm seen, then I could be attacked.
Mhm.
And that's a very real fear that many of us carry, whether it's in the subconscious or in the conscious.
Mhm.
So, how do we heal this one? I've seen over the years that when women come together in safe spaces and we start to reveal a little more of ourselves, we start to be a little more vulnerable, we start to open up in safe ways. And especially when we have a community of women that really feels like a sisterhood, where we feel safe with them, then it's almost like we have this healing balm of the feminine, of the sisterhood at our back. So then if I make that post on social media and it totally fails, or some troll makes a mean comment on it, I'll have people to go to that can just like comfort and be of support and to feel like, oh, you don't have to be so alone in this. And
Mhm.
even sometimes having other women that are like, yeah, I struggle with this too. It's totally fine. You know, you're okay.
Yeah.
That can really help us to heal that wound.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And when you were saying that, I got chills several times because I think anyone who's listening to this podcast can relate to the fear of speaking out, having the tough conversation, right? Um, Even just sharing what they want, like making a decision. And I know a lot of women struggle with this. I do. And so that totally makes sense that this is in our DNA. This is in our subconscious. This is passed down.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big one that many of us are healing. And as we heal it, I think that we also heal it on behalf of our ancestors
Yes.
and all those who came before us. Yeah.
And those ahead of us too.
Yes.
We were
Yes.
earlier we were talking about motherhood and like the mother wisdom that's just coming out through this
Yes.
initiation of becoming a mother. And that's, that's it too, of sharing our voice, sharing our
Yes.
authentic voice. And that idea of like even when you say, persecuted, maybe that might not resonate with us because like today we won't get stoned, but we could get made fun of, we could feel shame. And that's that heaviness, that shame, and that's cloaking our voice.
Yeah. And once we heal this wound too, we have so much awareness around how to nurture those future generations.
Hmm.
I really think about that with my daughter of like she sings all the time and I'm just like encouraging her in her singing and just like helping her feel safe and
Uh-huh.
just want her to really feel like she can shine.
Yes. I know children are the freest, and then somewhere along the way, all those parts of ourselves kind of get shut down. But that is that voice. Yes. I love
Yes, the
that.
more we can encourage it and just, yeah, protect in the ways that we can. And if something happens, someone says something at school, it's like we have tools to work with that earlier rather than, 20 years later, we're in a healing session trying
Hmm.
to,
Unpack that. Yeah. Totally.
yeah.
Awesome. Yes, I really resonate with that one. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, me as well. I think that's the biggest one that I've healed on my path is around feeling safe to share my voice. And I've done a lot of work around public speaking, yeah, personally, to feel safe in being able to share and reach the people that I want to reach and
Hmm.
to feel comfortable in that. So,
Hmm.
okay, so the next one, number two, is the sisterhood wound. So this is, if what if we don't actually feel safe with other women? And this is such a painful wound that I think really stems from whether it was this lifetime or early childhood or other lifetimes or in our ancestry, just around betrayal. And I think when we go back into ancient times and we think about what was happening to women in those witch hunts and those persecution times, the women were turned against each other and, to turn people in. And there were these betrayals that happened on a really big level. And I
Hmm.
think just in general, in times where we were focusing on survival, we had to turn to competition, and fear was such a big piece when it came to other women. And then in present day, how often do we find ourselves feeling jealous of other women,
Yes.
comparing ourselves, not feeling like we can trust other women? And so this is a really big wound. And this one, I think about, well, how can we heal this wound? I mean, the first thing for me was attending women's circles because there was a facilitator, a guide, a way to come into a space where we had shared agreements. We were able to open up and share our hearts with each other and see that there are women out there in the world who really do want to support and uplift and uphold the sacred feminine, and really realizing that these sisterhood wounds were very much almost created by the patriarchy
Yes.
itself, like wanting to turn women against each other and to keep us separate. And once we start to see that, we can see that, wow, to heal this wound is such a big piece of restoring balance of the sacred feminine on this planet. Like, of course, I want to do what I can to trust other women. And I feel like when we are coming from a place of total love and not in a place of competition and being able to see and admire other people and wanting to uplift them and really letting go of the scarcity and feeling like, yeah, there is enough for all of us. And then when we come from that place, like that's what the universe brings back to us. And
Hmm.
then suddenly other women are wanting to uplift us and we let go of all that scarcity. So,
Yeah. Yes. And I do think a lot of women can resonate with this too, because I literally was just talking with somebody yesterday about this of, not feeling safe with other women, like not having women friends because there's just not, women are catty or bitchy or not non-trusting. And it's like, oh no, that is not, I used to be that way too, but then when we start to expand instead of shrink, like we realize women, one, we're needed with each other. This sisterhood is so needed and it is really expansive.
yeah, it's
Mm.
beautiful when we actually find those communities
It
where
really
we,
is. It really is.
yeah,
Yeah, there's
so
so much
healing.
depth and wisdom and healing and joy that comes from that. And that's where I can see the wound, right? The wound that is there that was created for us to be separate.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Such a big one.
Yes. Beautiful. What is the third one? The
Yeah,
third
so the
wound.
third one is the money wound. And this is when I just feel like so many women have this one. I had this myself when I thought about actually charging for my spiritual work and my healing gifts. It was like, but this is like what I'm here to do. Shouldn't I offer it for free?
Yes.
And of course, it's great to start off offering it for free and to just be willing to share abundantly. But at some point, very practically, we live in a world where there is an exchange of money and we need money to pay bills and
Mhm.
to work in this world. And so one of the healing shifts for me was just around, wow, charging for my work actually enables me to keep doing it, to do
Mm.
it more, to spend more of my time doing this, to
Yes.
expand in how I'm doing this. And I offer partial scholarships for women in need and for women of color, and all of that we can do and make the work accessible. But also, charging for the work it's a sacred exchange. And when we receive something that we're super grateful for and we get to receive, it feels good to be giving something in that for return. And
Hmm.
also, I find women are more invested in the work when they pay for it. So there are a lot of different ways to work with this wound, but I also work with EFT tapping, which is a way of reframing limiting beliefs and rewiring them on a subconscious level. I also have a lot of rituals I guide women in my program around stepping into greater abundance and prosperity.
Mm.
And this, I just feel it's so important for us to come into the really valuing our services and our work and seeing this as something that is a beautiful exchange and
Hmm.
that it's actually can be really sacred when we receive money for it.
Very much. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a big one for a lot of us.
For me too. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to, know your worth and what to charge for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
And it takes time to come into that really confidence and knowing of our experience. But confidence comes from doing and trying things
mhm.
out and being willing to, be with our edge and charge that number. And it's so beautiful when it comes to a place when it's just like, yeah, receiving money feels really good. And I think people can feel that on both sides where you're not afraid of it. And yeah, we can
Yeah.
just enjoy and see the money as something that's a beautiful tool.
Hmm. And it is an exchange. It really is an exchange because, like you said, I love what you said earlier is once you're receiving it, like this enables you to do this work. And this work is really powerful. It's healing. It's bringing people together. It's empowering. And so it is needed. You're needed, and they need it
Totally.
too. So it is a perfect exchange when we can like step into it and trust it. Trust it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Awesome. What's the next one?
Yeah. So the next one, I think we're on the fourth. This is the wound of isolation.
Hmm.
And I think this both around just the fact of our modern day society, we live in our homes and our single family units, and we're generally quite separated. We're not in our villages and our tribes that used to be.
Yep.
And that can feel really lonely. It can feel hard to move ahead when we feel so isolated like that. And then I also feel like there is a fear of becoming more isolated in maybe mainstream society by even identifying with the word priestess, or
Mhm.
the fear of being outcast for being spiritual. And I've talked to a lot of people who are like, I'm coming out of the spiritual closet, or like, I can't talk to other people about this. And it's a real fear
Uh-huh.
because in ancient times, like we literally needed our community in order to thrive. And if someone got pointed out and outcast and shunned to the fringes of society, they literally could not survive. So
Mhm.
it's a very real human need that we have like biologically adapted to needing like community and working together and being together. And so it can feel so isolating, just whether we're living in our homes or even the thought of sharing who we really are as that, as the priestess. And this was a big one for me to come out of that spiritual closet and to really own who I am, because maybe also the persecution wound comes in. Can I really share this? And so the healing balm for this one, I think, is finding like-minded community.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so blessed in this day and age that if we don't have this in our physical presence of people around us, more and more it's coming, yoga studios and women's circles and spiritual shops and things, we're starting to find it. But we can use the internet. We can, virtually create incredible communities.
Yes.
A lot of the women in my Way of the Priestess initiation program felt alone and felt like I don't really have anyone I can turn to and talk to about these dreams I'm having, or this deep calling to be of service, or to want to meditate, or to have connection with these goddess guides. And when we find other women where it's like, oh my God, they get this, it can be so healing, and just like, to feel safe and to feel like we can fully express ourselves. It's really wonderful to have communities where we can do that.
Yes, communities and mentorship, to have leaders in this, because and I do want to get to, for those who are listening, like, what is a priestess, and what is your program all about? How do we really heal this, and more of your story. But like, we need mentorship too. So women's circles, and we need teachers to teach us these ways that have become hidden, or not hidden, lost,
Yeah,
because
it
of
really
all these
helps to
different ways,
have
right?
a little bit of guidance, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of education, a little bit of support,
Yes, all of it.
so that, we're not just off always just searching Google by ourselves. Or, of course, there are amazing books out there, but it really helps to do this work in community.
Well, we're real people. We need each other,
Yeah,
especially after the pandemic. I think that really showed us, when we're in that isolation, we don't do well.
yeah,
Yeah, we're meant to be together, to thrive, to connect. So yeah, that
yes,
totally makes sense. Okay, let's go through those. We're on five. Last
yeah.
two?
Number
Okay,
five. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's three more. Okay, so
okay.
number 5 is the wound of sensitivity, or
Hmm.
being too highly sensitive. So I think of
Feel
high
that.
sensitivity now as a superpower.
Yes.
But how many times, have we been told like, oh, you're too sensitive, or you shouldn't really take it that way, or we've been conditioned to see sensitivity as a weakness.
Yes.
And yeah, this wound can cause us to feel overwhelmed by the energy of the world, by what's happening in the news, just needing to retreat, doubting our intuitive gifts. And it can really just keep us stuck and not want to get out of bed and unable to move forward with our calling.
Hmm.
So, the healing for this, I would see, is first getting really clear with energetic protection. So there are a lot of tools I teach in my program around, grounding cord and protecting your energy and clearing energy and calling your energy back and creating, a golden field of light around you and working with the violet flame and different practices so that we can clear energy and realize like, wow, I am sensitive. I do feel things that maybe other people don't. And how can I work with that in a way that is really honoring my boundaries?
Hmm.
And also with this, if we can start to shift our perspective around sensitivity to this being a weakness, to actually this being a superpower.
Hmm.
The women in ancient times that were seen as priestesses, they were, kind of high in the castles, like dreaming and meditating and being able to tune into the psychic realms and to make predictions and to advise kings and queens and to be able to connect with these other worlds. And that was a gift that was needed. And the reason we're sensitive is because we have these intuitive gifts, this ability to listen to our intuition and to know when something doesn't feel right, or to be able to channel a beautiful message or to write a song. It's like these gifts, we have to be so sensitive for a reason to like
Yes.
receive and to see this as a superpower. And as long as we can hold our field and our energetic protection, we can see this gift as really something that can be utilized. And it's a superpower.
It really is. It took me decades to come to that realization as
Yeah.
a very sensitive person and child. So I know many of the people listening to this podcast will really understand and resonate with that.
Yes. So, number 6 is the wound of unworthiness. And I think this really, a lot of us have had times in our life where we just felt like we didn't matter.
Mhm.
And we felt like we're not enough. We've doubted our power. We're questioning our authority, our ability to lead or to be a healer. Not to mention, a lot of us struggle with perfectionism,
Mhm.
a need for external validation, or imposter syndrome. All the millions of ways that we, yeah, just feel like we're not enough. Who am I to do this? Who am I
Yes.
to share my gifts? And yeah, so I really support women in calling back this power, really believing in themselves and the gifts that they have and their voice and their intuitive gifts. And, there are a lot of ways we can do this. I do a lot of healing work with people's inner child and the work with the EFT tapping and healing memories and all of this, to work with core limiting beliefs and come into our power in this way.
Mhm.
But there's something that happens in sisterhood when another woman can look at you and reflect your power back to you and to say what she sees in you. It is infinitely easier to believe in yourself, in your
Yeah.
dreams, and to take those steps forward that you want to.
Mhm.
It's incredible what can happen when especially one person, but like if there's a group of women just like cheering you
Uh-huh.
on and reflecting your greatness back to you, it's really beautiful. And I've seen it. I've been leading women's circles and groups for now over a decade. And like to see what can happen when we have that kind of support and encouragement, it's
Yes.
beautiful. We can
It
really
really
blossom.
It really is. And also to see other women, with their unworthiness wounds too, that you like think are amazing, right? And so then you can start to see that and you reflects back to you of, well, maybe I shouldn't be so harsh either. And that's the
Yeah.
power of that sister bond, really, and creating that sacred space that you do.
Mhm.
Hmm, that's big.
So powerful. So I think we're at the last one, number 7, which is the wound of self-condemnation.
Hmm.
And this wound I really just tapped into recently because, yeah, I had a moment where I just noticed my thoughts being really, really hard on myself. And I was talking about it with my husband, and he was like, oh, well, in ancient times, that was one of the ways the patriarchy would sabotage the women that were magical and had these gifts, and they would make them feel bad about themselves. And
Wow.
the women would basically condemn themselves and feel like, oh my God, if I'm let me think of an example from ancient times. Let's say a woman knew the gifts of the earth and worked with herbs and was creating healing medicines and balms and incantations and things like that. And then if you get a whole society to believe that that's witchcraft and that's bad and that's scary and she's doing, horrible things. And then suddenly the woman is like, oh, am I bad?
Yep.
Maybe I am doing something that's not right.
Yep.
And this this is self-doubt that can come into our psyche.
Hmm.
This self-condemnation is so much more powerful than really any of it. If
Yeah.
I'm condemning myself, of course I'm not going to shine my light. Of course I'm not going to step
Mhm.
out and speak my truth. So in reality, we are whole, we're holy, we're pure. We just need to remember the purity in who we are
Mhm.
and to really release the programming and to start to have awareness around our thoughts and what are the ways that I'm condemning myself or sabotaging myself, and to come into a more wholeness of self love
Yeah.
and how we talk to ourselves. And that takes practice. It takes time to have the awareness, to notice it, to release those stories, to release the programming,
Mhm.
and to reclaim our innate power.
Yeah, and as you're telling us about all these different wounds, I mean, there's a lot of layers and different things that are coming at us, right? Even in our modern day society, there's social media that's forcing us to compare and to judge ourselves and condemn ourselves, to doubt our worth, and so I feel like all of these wounds are almost like layers on top of each other, sometimes enmeshed within each other, so it's not easy just to be like, I'll work on just this way. Just, it is, it's kind of like wanting to be healthier. And you're like, I'm just going to work out at the gym, but I'm going to eat my donuts. It's this holistic approach of healing all different aspects, from all different sides. So I
Yeah.
love, yeah. And when I read your email and now that you're talking about all the seven wounds, I think many of us can relate honestly to all of them. Like all of the ones that you said, I'm like, yep, yep, check, yes, and it makes a lot of sense that these have been ingrained in us
Yes.
from, past lives, our subconscious, even, we were talking earlier about becoming mothers. Like this is an initiation into a deeper realm of ourselves, and, those wounds show up in how we were parented, how we parent subconsciously, so the healing work is deep. It's deep and
Yeah.
important. Yeah,
It
thank
is.
you so much for sharing those wounds. I know so many can relate to this. And I wanted to kind of pivot and ask you, for those who are listening and they might be wondering, what the heck is a priestess? Can you
Yeah.
back up and tell us what a priestess is and how you came to be on this path?
Yes.
Thank
Yes, of
you. Thank
course.
you.
Yeah. So when I think of the energy of a priestess, I think of first and foremost a woman who is here to serve and to be of service.
Hmm.
And usually we are quite intuitive. We are really here to become the bridge between heaven and earth, to
Hmm.
open to receive divine guidance, wisdom, support, connect with those higher realms,
Hmm.
allow it to move through our body vessel, that we become the vessel, the chalice to receive this sacred wisdom. And sometimes the priestess path is just about being in the frequency. Can I hold the frequency of the divine feminine, of love, of this embodiment of how I want to walk in the world, the beauty way? And then there are very clear times where we feel this tap on the shoulder that is asking us to bring this work out into the world.
Hmm.
And so that might look like holding a woman's circle or showing up for a new mom with some food or leading a ritual for someone who's going through grief or a really hard transition. There are so many moments in our life that really would benefit from receiving ritual and support and witnessing, that in our culture, we don't really have rites of passage designed around everything from a woman's first menstrual cycle
Hmm.
to, leaving this world, death, dying. There's so many rites of passage in between this. Maybe it's just getting a divorce or
Hmm.
starting a new career. And the energy of the priestess I see as one who can work with energy and create a space where we can create that witnessing, that rite of passage. And I work with women that are both like this is their life path and their vocation, and they're a tarot reader or a massage therapist or a coach and a healer, and that this is like and something else to add into their next steps of their vocation. But I also work with women who are nurses and real estate agents and accountants and women that are just in the world, and they're like, no, I know this is part of who I am. This is a deep calling. And we can bring the energy of the priestess to everything that we do, the way that we listen, the way that we hold space, the way that we can bring the sacred into every moment. And on a bigger scheme, like what I stand for and what I want to create in the world is the healing balance on our planet, restoring the balance of the sacred feminine. When we look at the world, we can see that we've been very out of balance, that we've been very much in our inner masculine of, reaping all the resources from the earth and needing to see the numbers go up all the time. And basically, the model of the feminine is very cyclical. There are times of expansion and there are times of rest. There are times of being out in the world and there are times of coming into our center. And along this path, we usually are faced with initiations of times in our life that really change us on a deep level. And if we are able to have community and support around these initiations and to see that we are a soul, we came into this life with a desire to learn and to grow, that of course, we're always going to be faced with challenges and all of it on our path. And this is an opportunity to see it as a spiritual opportunity of growth. So being the priestess in our life, it might look like picking up trash on this, side of the road, or it might look like holding a big ceremony for the spring equinox. There are a lot of different ways that it can look within our family, within our community, within our work, our sacred work in the world. And so I lead a year and a day initiation program. It's called the Way of the Priestess. And it's been, 5 years of leading this particular program now. The year and a day is considered an ancient amount of time where women would be in this kind of initiatory process and sacred study. And in the program itself, we have broken down into monthly modules. And every month of the program is a different goddess guide. And we get to work with the energies of everyone from Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Goddess Isis and Hathor and Sekhmet, some of those Egyptian goddesses. We work with some Hindu goddesses like Kali Ma and Lakshmi. We work with the energy of Kuan Yin as well. And we close with the energy of Yeshua, many know as Jesus, of really walking a path around what is the energy? How can I leave this world more beautiful than I found it? What is the legacy that I want to leave behind? How do I want to walk in this world as the priestess? And every month has a different initiation gateway, a different ascended master guide, different teachings and lessons, priestess practices, rituals, facilitation skills. So at the end of the program, we have a vow ceremony where each woman writes her vows as the priestess. What is she holding as the energy that she wants to share in this world? How does she want to be of service? What does that priestess energy look like for her? And then she really has that opportunity to claim it. And not only that, have that ceremony and that rite of passage, but then to have this group of women that have been witnessing her over this year to then reflect her greatness back to her. And it's like this beautiful ceremony of just like, wow, we can do so much when we have this kind of support and rite of passage in our life. So that's a little bit about the program.
I love it. I love it. I love it all. I love it all. And can you tell us when it starts?
Yeah, so
soon.
the next cohort is March 13th, 2025. So anyone is hearing this and thinking you want to jump in, I'm happy to have a call with you to learn more. We can share the link in your show notes. So,
Yeah. And then I know you were saying, who this is for, but what if it's the woman who doesn't want to outwardly serve, is like she's doesn't want to lead, women's circles, or, doesn't want to be like a paid healer. What would this program also be for her? And how would that
yeah.
benefit her?
Yeah. So I'd say there are women that take this program as a spiritual healing path.
Hmm.
And maybe that first step is around the piece around self love. And, when I think about the healing balance of the feminine, we need to work within ourselves first.
For
We
sure.
often carry a lot of patriarchal conditioning in our own mind around how we treat ourselves and how we talk to ourselves.
Hmm.
And so that
And
is
how we push
definitely the
ourselves
first.
too. You were talking
Yes.
about, we are very masculine oriented with the striving, the pushing, the achieving, which has its place. And yet when we do that, we forget. We forget
Yeah.
we forget, and we're so busy with the outward roles and responsibilities of doing, we forget to be. We forget
Yeah.
to listen and connect to our intuition, which we need space. And I love that you talked about the cyclical about it, because women, we are very in tune with nature. Even our menstrual cycles are, connected to the
Yeah.
28 days of the moon. And, I mean, if we could just step back and see our power and wisdom that's within us, but we kind of get covered, right? That light gets covered. So yes,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, continue. I just wanted to add that because it was
Definitely.
on my
It's
mind, and you're
definitely
powerful in
for
saying
all
that.
women who feel called to the path because, yeah, doing our deep inner spiritual healing work is so
Mm,
important. And yeah, a lot of women just want to have this connection of to the goddess guides and to
mhm.
the wanting to learn more and how can I bring ritual into my morning practice and with my children or in my life with my family members, with my friends. It's so beautiful to have someone in our lives who's generally the one who we already just want to share with and to
Yeah.
have someone listen to. It's like usually those are the women that feel called to this. They're like, I'm already the person that all my friends come to and
Yes.
talk to me about their problems. And
Hmm.
maybe I could just have a few more skills and gifts around this to just, yeah, to really honor that we're walking this sacred path. And I have to say, almost every woman I talk to, I feel like has walked this path in other lifetimes when I really tune in. And I feel like
Very
this
much.
is very much a remembering.
It
Yeah.
is. That's so wild that you say that. I just literally, yes, last night I posted on Instagram, which y'all know I don't really post on Instagram too much because it sucks the life out of us sometimes. But I posted on remembering. And on Saturday night, we had one of our girlfriends is leaving town, and there was six of us that got together, and we were just talking about our wounds and our wishes, and it was a very deep conversation for not knowing each other. I didn't know most of the women very well, and that's the power that you're talking about of like sacred sisterhood, and we all come with our doubts and our wounds that have been passed on to us or that we've learned. And one of the questions that showed up was like, what is the purpose of life? If it's not happiness, this outward reaching for something that will complete us, then they were like, well, is it the inner work? Well, that just seems like a lot of work, and then it was like, okay, well, it must be joy. Then it's like, well, not everything's going to bring us joy. So we were kind of trying to
Yeah.
see like, what is this? What is the purpose of life? And on my drive home, it came to what you just said is like this the remembering of who we already are, the
Yes.
remembering of our divine light that's already within us, that's been covered by life,
Yes.
that's been covered by history, generation after generation after generation, that light that's been covered up even by, our own parents, unknowingly or knowingly, subconsciously or consciously. So it's like when you were talking about all the wounds, it's like, whoa, there's a lot of layers of that covering, and even in the modern society today, with all of our devices, everything that's pining for us, us feeling alone on this path because we are, we don't have the village and the tribe, and we go into our garages and we close it, and then we're like left to ourselves, and then we get on our phones and our mind starts to wander and gets distracted. It is very important to find that diligence, right? That like determination to like create more space, and then also to have that sacred space to nurture that light. So yeah, I love sorry, that was so long, but like I love what you said about the remembering, because it really is this remembering of who we already are.
I know. I mean, I think about those existential questions a lot. And when I think about that as well, it's like if we were in total perfect harmony and bliss and a point of light that was just in total oneness all the time, wouldn't you think that it would be a fun experiment to create this place where we are always learning and growing? And it's basically we come into this life forgetting. And we have this lifetime to remember and to just get to
Beautiful.
be on this journey of, yeah, difficulty and hardship and lessons and to realize that I think at the end of it, when we do pass, that we are at that return to source. We come back
Yes.
into that state of oneness, and we get to see, wow, what an incredible journey. And, it was all to come back to this. And of course, I think there are ways to come into that state of oneness in this life. And that has a lot to do with just meditation and
Yeah.
liberation and enlightenment and that whole path that I am also on. But it's so beautiful, yeah, to just make meaning of it all.
Mhm. And, having that sacred sisterhood, that sacred space to do so, because I really don't think we're meant to travel this journey alone.
Yeah.
Um, and we can find, our different soulmates on our path in so many ways at so many different times. And I love the idea that you talked about with the initiations, in so I'm writing a book and it's called Quiet the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee. And that mind, that itty bitty shitty committee, always is like so small. And with your program, with your guidance, we can see these challenges that the itty bitty shitty committee would say, ah, this sucks. This is a challenge. I don't want to go through this, and really see it as an opportunity. But I love your idea actually of shifting that perspective to its initiation.
Yeah.
This dark time, this challenge, this thing that I don't want to go through that's making me so uncomfortable. It's hard to see like, oh, there's an opportunity. What's the gift? And you're like, oh, I don't want the gift right now.
Yeah.
Really an initiation. You are becoming something greater and bigger than what you once were. Like this is the calling.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So for
It's
those
how
of
we
you who are
find our
listening,
greatness.
yes, I
Yeah.
know. I like my mind is blown with this like initiation and then the remembering, and it's so synchronistic because literally we're having this conversation with girlfriends, Sacred Sisterhood on Saturday, and then it's been in my mind, and I'm, editing some things in the book too. So like this remembering, and really if we could just keep remembering and uncovering, that would be that's what it's about, right? And your
Yeah.
program is a year and a day coming up very soon that will
Yes.
help us remember our love and return to it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Meredith. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our community? And where can
Uh,
we find you?
yeah. Yeah. Well, my website, meredithrom.com, Instagram, I recently changed my handle to Meredith of the Rose.
Mm.
Um, anything else I could just leave people with? I would just say, hmm, yeah, all of this healing is available for you. You don't need to be in this stuck place, the victim place. And like you said, we can just see that life is happening for us, not to us. And to take that with us into, yeah, every challenge that we meet in all the ways that we want to give and love in this life.
Meredith Fromm, thank you so much for being the light, being the love, and sharing your wisdom today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you liked it, share it with a friend or leave us a review on iTunes. And sign up for email updates at risingwomanleaders.com to be sure to receive all the new and inspiring content. Thanks again for being here. It's an honor to walk this path with you.